everyone. I am here to, I was going to talk about the election. This will sort of be about the election, but it's hilarious. I actually was working on this really long presentation about the birth charts of the candidates and the birth chart of America and all this stuff. And I feel like I'm being guided to really scrap the candidates and to just talk about what I discovered about the formation of this country when I was looking at the U.S. birth chart, and just share some about that. And I'll pull some cards. I'll probably get into the election a little bit, but I really feel the goddess stepping forward strongly because America's sun is in Cancer conjunct Sirius. And immediately when I think of that, I see the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is like this iteration of different goddesses, really. She's got the torch, like Vesta. She's got the Book of Life, reminds me of like the High Priestess Tarot card. And she really represents the goddess Isis to me, which is like one of the foundational goddesses I feel like a lot of other goddess archetypes stem from. She also has a chain that's broken at her ankle that represents liberation, Statue of Liberty, the goddess Libertas. So I think it's really interesting that the U.S. has a really strong feminine energy in their chart, actually. A lot of Cancerian energy. And the South Node is in Aquarius and the North Node is in Leo. So you would almost think, and our moon is in Aquarius, you would almost think that it would be the opposite for America. Because when Pluto moved into Aquarius, that was the time of the American Revolution, and Aquarius really represents like breaking away and rebelling and finding freedom, right? And that's what the US did from Britain. But it's interesting because we did that, so that's kind of like our South Node karma. And then I believe the North Node karma is to find our own way, which is Leo. And it's really about honoring the individual and finding balance between the individual and the collective. And it really feels like an experimental new government. And what I find really interesting is, democracy already existed. The Romans were experimenting with it, and who knows even how far back it goes. Probably goes all the way back to Atlantean times, because Plato wrote about the cycle of a republic, which is we live in a democratic republic in the US. And he talked about how there's a monolithic growth of government in these cycles where you go from having a democracy with representatives of the people, and as the government gets larger and larger, there seems to always be more corruption and an imbalance of power by some point. And so he was writing about how a democracy eventually becomes an oligarchy and then becomes a tyrannical government. And this cycle is about 250 years. Well, I think that's so interesting because Pluto's cycle is around 248 years. And we often see a lot of revolutions around the time that Pluto moves from Capricorn to Aquarius. And that's what we're in now. When the US was established, Pluto was at, I believe, 27 degrees of Capricorn. So we've experienced the Pluto return. We're still experiencing the aftermath of that. And the invitation is for the governmental structures to die and be reborn. I'm sure everybody is like up with this if they're interested in the astrology of the collective. But something else that was really interesting is I noticed that the US has Algol conjunct asteroid Atlantis in Taurus. And I immediately remembered Sir Francis Bacon had written a book called The New Atlantis. And it turns out that Sir Francis Bacon was sort of like one of the founding fathers, but more of a hidden founding father. He was referred to as the spirit behind the beginning of America. And there's, I'm going to see if I can share a picture of this. I've never shared pictures here before. This is his book, and actually I'm going to, let's see, choose a different asset. I'm going to share a close-up. Oh, dang, that does not look good. Okay, I'll go back to the other one. I hope you can see this little image on the cover of this book. Let me look at my notes here to tell you a little bit more about this. Okay, so on the cover, Father Time is depicted bringing a female figure out of the darkness of a cave. In Latin, it says, "In time, the secret truth shall be revealed." And I think that's so interesting with this feminine energy that the country holds in its chart. And it feels like the U.S. is a huge part of this divine feminine energy rising. Something else that's really interesting is that our country was founded by Freemasons, essentially. So a part of the Freemason initiatory process to become a Master Mason is to go through resurrection initiation, which is like a living near-death experience where they say the veil of Isis is removed and you can see the inner workings of the universe. You essentially see how everything's connected. You see to the other side of the veil. And so when someone goes through that, they essentially see that they are divine human, that we are connected to the divine, and it's first-hand experience. And so these founding fathers had gone through this initiation, and this initiation dates way back to ancient Egypt, probably even before. It eventually was taken up by the Knights Templar and the Scottish Rite and other groups as well, and then also to the Freemasons. Now, there's a lot of things out there about Freemasonry. A lot of people think it's evil, but I actually look at it similar to a lot of things, that there's two sides to the same coin for everything. Just like magic can be used for good or evil. This type of knowledge can be used for good or evil depending on, what state of consciousness you're at. And I can't say for certain where the founding fathers were in that, but my intuitive feeling is that they were coming from a pure place. So I wanted to share, this is another neat little, I'm not sure if it'll really look that, oh yeah, you can see it pretty good. This is George Washington, our first president, wearing his Mason apron, and they are laying the first cornerstone of, I believe this is of Washington, D.C. I don't remember if it's the Capitol building. I'm sorry, I kind of blanked on what structure this is for, but the point is, what's really interesting is that this is very similar to ancient Egyptian custom and many other ancient cultures' customs, where they lay a seed stone before they erect a temple. And even some cultures erect temples over older temples. And it's thought that seed stone holds like the spirit of intention of that place. And so I find it fascinating that these men started this country not necessarily from a Christian perspective. In fact, Freemasonry just requires that you believe in a higher power. It's not specific to religion. It's more about self-discovery and firsthand experience. So those are some of the things I found really interesting. What else? Something else about the North Node of America being in Leo. I find it really interesting. We're in a Venus cycle of the meta-goddess, the Leo meta-goddess. So what I see is like this transformation of Sekhmet. I think of Sekhmet, the Egyptian goddess, who was the goddess of war. And she came in when the laws of Ma'at were out of balance, and she came to correct the balance. But in her pursuit, she became bloodthirsty and out of control, and there was just fear spreading across the land. And so her father Ra worked with the gods to brew this beer that had poppies in it and looked like blood. And they spilt it all over the ground to trick her into drinking it all. And so she drinks it, and she becomes content. And there's sort of like, it's like she has this other world experience. And when she comes back from that, she becomes more like a protector goddess. So I think the transformation of this Leo meta-goddess is really asking us to quell our rage and our anger and our fear and transmute it into like a more sovereign energy that wants to stand for what we believe in and not force it on other people, and not let our anger get the best of us and create more violence and perpetuate more of, that negative energy. And to return back to like an innocent place or a way of protecting the innocent. And I see like, I see a lot of focus around children right now. And I think a lot of people are kind of worried about the future of our children. So there's a lot of Leo energy required right now, which makes sense with Pluto soon moving into Aquarius. We're going to need a balance, right? Because Pluto and Aquarius, Pluto illuminates the shadow, and Aquarius could be about groupthink. It can be about the way we're using technology, the way we're controlling communication. And Leo is all about self-expression in the heart. Aquarius is the higher mind. It's AI, right? The higher mind can be a good thing, but if you're illuminating the shadow, it could look more like AI. Not that AI is all bad, but it will illuminate the shadows of that. And so Leo's really asking us to like stay human and to stay in our heart and to try to see each other as just expressions of the divine and expressions of like the divine spark and love, and how can I see your soul rather than all of these things that are up in the head, like what you believe and all of that. So what I'll note after saying that is that Trump, RFK, and JD Vance are all Leo risings. And I believe Tulsi Gabbard is a Leo North Node. And I think Elon Musk has a Leo South Node. And so what's really interesting about this team that Trump has formed is he calls it a coalition, and there's more people involved too. I can't even look at all of their charts. Like, there's so many people who are starting to join this team. It's very Aquarian, you know? So there's kind of actually a balance going on there, I feel like. And what else is really interesting that I'd almost forgotten is a lot of the people joining him used to be Democrats. So we kind of have this, view, this kind of skewed view, I feel like, by the media, that there's just like left and right, and extreme left and extreme right. But I actually think there's a middle ground forming. And if we're not really open to seeing that, we're definitely not going to see it. So yeah, I think I'll go ahead and pull some cards. All right, what do I want to ask? I'm like totally flying by the seat of my pants here, which I always am, but this just is, it's a bigger topic than I'm used to covering. I pulled out my Atlantis deck because, I'm going to mention something else about the Atlantis book that Francis Bacon wrote. It's unfinished. So what that tells me, and I don't think I told you much about it either. It's about a utopian society that used technology in balanced ways. So it's like he had this knowledge of like ancient South America. That's what it feels like when you read the book, is that he's visiting like Mexico or something and finding these ancient civilizations and indigenous people and seeing how they use their technology and actually like joining with this society. And so I think it's really interesting that it's unfinished, because I think we're writing the rest of the story. I think this is the destiny of America, is to be like the new Atlantis, the Atlantis rising, and bringing back that state of consciousness, but hopefully without repeating a lot of the same mistakes that we did. So I'm going to pull a card about this for my Atlantis deck. Let's see. Destiny of America. Justice. Truth prevails in the end. Wow. There's a lot of power there. And this is a message that I love this, because this kind of reiterates what he's saying about Father Time bringing the female figure out of darkness. The feminine is like what's hidden, right? Truth will prevail. And then I feel like I'm seeing the scales of Ma'at being rebalanced. Once we transform this war goddess energy, or war, you could say war god too. But it is interesting that we have a female candidate who is, I don't want to say she's pro-war, but there's no plans for her to stop it. So let's see what Isis has to say about this. Truths unveiled, the revelation of Isis. Okay. This is kind of wild. So it feels like there's a lot of truth coming to light. Wow. Okay. And then I want to ask about, I got out my Tree Angel Oracle deck. I'm going to ask about the future of our governmental systems, because I think of with trees, the branches of government and the roots. This country has some interesting roots with that Cancerian energy. All right. The future of our governmental structures. What Tree Angel has a message for us? Alder. Oh, I've pulled her before. I'm going to have to read about her. Let's see. Card 30. The alder stands beside the stream, and the water rushes past. The alder lets it swirl by and stream too, the alder lets it swirl by, and the stream too leaves the alder in peace. The stream supplies water and protects the alder from drying out. The alder shades the stream and protects it from becoming too warm. They sustain each other without trying to change one another. Let things be perfection. A breeze caresses the leaves, and the heavens smile. The angel of alder heightens emotion and empathy, acceptance and forgiveness. The alder offers great comfort. It calms and supports us in letting go of pain from the past and healing old scars. Her secret is in releasing and letting life flow. Just rely on the alder and listen to the splashing of the stream, letting go of everything that is causing you pain, sorrow, grief, rage, hate, your bitter tears. Surrender it all to the earth and her helpers to be transformed into fruitfulness. Allow yourself to be purified, and in so doing, cleanse yourself. The alder is also the Norn of the past. Her secret ability lies in non-attachment to everything except the ground on which she stands. It is through this that she teaches us the gentle and essential art of release, of letting go. Emotions are linked with the element of water. They represent energy that must flow in order for life to continue. If we hold them in and bottle them up, we become hard and stiff, inhibited and obstructed. This leads to physical and spiritual paralysis, and eventually to long-term physical and emotional pain. Rigid discipline replaces spontaneity and compassion, all good reasons for allowing one thing to flow into another, just like the alder. And this speaks a lot about Cancer energy and how it is so important for us to release the past. There's a motherly energy there. The part that really stuck out to me about this card was they sustain each other without trying to change one another. And that is Aquarian energy, allowing people to hold whatever beliefs they hold. And that's kind of the shadow of Capricorn, is trying to control other people, right? When I was reading this, I was hearing the eye of the needle. It's almost like this election is just this eye of a needle that we need to get through. And now I want to ask about the aftermath of it, because I think that's something a lot of people are concerned about, just because the division is so strong, right? So I got out my Mists of Avalon deck here. Can I please see a card about the aftermath of this election? The Sacred Grove. Renewal, protection, longevity, nature. It's interesting, the Ancient Stone, and it's a card 8. We're in an 8 year. Let's see what it says. Feels like what I'm feeling intuitively is a lot of people just going within. Let's see here. It's time to breathe new life into the humdrum of your existence. Find time and space for respite. Breathe life deeply. Spend some time in nature. It is where your spirit will have the chance to regenerate and find peace. Ground yourself and reconnect to the magic of the trees and be rejuvenated and healed. When you come to the Sacred Grove of Avalon, know that you have been brought here to be healed and to enjoy the sanctuary of peace and regeneration. Like the Avalonians who worked with groves and communicated with the spirit of the plants, the card asks you to feel the presence of nature's greatest regenerator of oxygen, the trees. The card of the Sacred Grove invites you to restore and grow. You are in the midst of feeling ungrounded, and this may be due to your busyness of life and fast pace. Tree roots extending beneath the earth connect their healing energies and magical powers to Mother Earth, which in turn helps us to be healed. You are in need of respite, a time to breathe, to reconnect with yourself and your vision of where you want to go, what you want to achieve. Oh yeah, and what you want to achieve. Feel the magic of new possibilities as fairies dance in the dappled shade. The sacred grove reminds you that you are connected to source, to nature, to the goddess, and to trees as they allow you to breathe. This is a time to strengthen your roots, to ground and center yourself, and build foundations for your future. All you need to do is breathe. The card of the grove reassures you that relief is in the air and that your emotional load is about to become lighter. As your head begins to feel clearer and more focused, you feel connected to nature's beauty. Reach out and touch the textured bark of the trees of the sacred grove. Lie beneath the leafy canopy, enjoy its beauty and solid presence. Create your own sanctuary. Beneath oak, ash, and hawthorn trees, fairy rings abound and fairies dwell. Feel the magic around you. And it says, I nourish myself every day. That's interesting. That sounds positive. And also such a good reminder just to stay grounded and rooted in nature, because something I always come back to is how all of these things we've invented, policy and all of these issues that we have, if you just go out in the woods, it disappears. Not that you can be there all the time, because the world is what it is. It's what we've created, right? But this gives me hope that we're going to come back to something simpler. And I think a lot of people are going to need to go within to kind of like figure things out. Like, what now? It's very interesting. I have a couple cards that I had pulled before when I was asking about this election reading, and they're these two: reconciliation and forgiveness. And it's not surprising. It feels like that's really what's needed in our country, right? But I want to ask, what is it going to take for us to get to this point of reconciliation and forgiveness? Interesting. Psychic abilities. Third eye opening and awakening. This kind of brings me back to these cards about the truth. The truth coming to light. Let's get another card from Isis. What will it take to get to a place of reconciliation? The knot of Isis. Energetic stabilization with the buckle of the beloved. These are really mystical. This is all about energies rising, vibrations rising, and trying to stabilize your vibration and becoming one with the goddess. And now I kind of want to ask her what she thinks the destiny of America is. Because this kind of goes back to the origins to me. It's the destiny of America, Isis. Abundance of Sothis. Stellar blessings of the celestial goddess of abundance. This is about making room for the harvest, cleaning out the old stores, making space and containers to receive something new and to receive abundance. So I think this is a challenge for us to step out of fear and to open ourselves up for miracles. Interesting. Well, what a nice and light reading I feel like that ended up being. um, this is so interesting. I feel like I want to pull one more card from the Atlantis deck about the destiny of America. Oh, this one flew out. Faith. I love it. Believe in the impossible. All right. Well, this looks impossible, but we need to believe it can happen. We need to drop the anger, drop the division, drop the resentment, stand in our sovereignty. And I feel like the forgiveness too, I want to say, is of our own shadow. Try not to judge ourselves too harshly for what we felt as well. So, I hope you guys have a wonderful night and you get out and vote tomorrow. All right, love you.